guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, we're going to be reassembling the head for the B18B1. Let's get started. Alright guys, so these valve seals here are all completely ruined, all 8 of them, because I forgot to install the valve spring seat first. Instead, I put these valve seals in there, and then I realized the valve spring seat had to go in first. Then I had to pull them all out, and in the process I'm pulling them all off, the Vitin inside these valve seals started ripping out, and I kind of crushed the seals here. So instead of reusing these and taking a risk, I decided I have to buy a brand new one. So I ended up buying a whole new set of valve stem seals, and these are actually pretty pricey for each individual one. But, you know, I'm not going to run these in case, you know, they'll leak or something like that. I'm sure the tops are fine. It's just more like getting them like pressed in there. But yeah, unfortunately, can't use these Engine Tech ones. Plus, the Engine Tech ones don't differentiate between which one's intake and which one's exhaust, and there is a differentiation within Honda and other suppliers. So I think these seals here are probably not good to be using anyways. So it's better to go for some better quality seals. Alright guys, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on these one by one because I've got them labeled. So it's just going to be installing the whole thing pressed in with the valve, and then we're going to keep moving on. That way I don't lose track of any of the bits and pieces. This goes in first, then the seal. Alright guys, the valves are all reinstalled now with new valve stem seals. The one thing that I do want to note is that this tool here actually releases quite a bit of little metal aluminum debris that might fall onto the valves or stick onto the valves while installing, because I got a whole bunch of these little metal shims on my gloves and everything, and as I was actually installing this, you can see little bits of sparkle everywhere. So what I'm going to do after this is probably just blow it all with compressed air to see if I could get as much of the little bits out as I can. It might stick to the oily bits, but you know, it's better than not blowing it out at all, because I know there are some little metal bits that might have fallen into the head, and you don't want those metal bits in there because they can grind down on your journals and everything on the cams, and that could destroy the whole engine. But yeah, we'll blow it all out. I know there's metal debris in these holes as well because we used them to bolt down this tool. So yeah, we'll definitely have to do another thorough cleaning of this. All right, now we want to check and set the cylinders to TDC to do the full reassembly. Everything has to be set at TDC. So there's a marking up here, and then this gear here has another marking here. So you just have to line that up and then make sure that the cylinders are on top dead center. So cylinder 1 should be at the top. So we're just going to crank it with the crank bolt. There you go. That should be at TDC, and that the cylinders are on top. So let's undo the crank bolt now. Yep, that's good. Alright guys, we're going to be installing the new head gasket. Here's the new head gasket from Engine Tech. I know some of you guys are probably going to be saying you should just switch to an OEM head gasket, but I think this looks fine. Should be good for what I need it for. Heads back on. Now we're just gonna put the head bolts back in and then torque it all down. All right, you gotta make sure all the threads are properly lubricated with oil as well as the washers. So the torquing we're gonna do in two sequences. Torque it all down at 22 foot-pounds, and then we're gonna torque it again at 63 foot-pounds. And we're gonna do it in like somewhat of a crisscross motion. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we're going to set it to 63 and do the final torque down. All right, we're all torqued down. We're all good. All right, now it's to put all the rockers back. They just go on like that. All right, we're going to reinstall the cams now. I'm just going to apply a little bit of assembly lube on all the surfaces that the cam's going to be sitting on. All right, here's the cam caps. The one thing that we do have to do is we have to apply some gasket maker, like a liquid gasket, on these surfaces, only on these two outside pieces. And then we're gonna have to install, as well, put liquid gasket on this, and then we pop it in and install everything. So we're gonna do that right now and then just bolt it all down. All right, so I installed the middle ones first. Now I'm going to apply the gasket maker on this part. So essentially the gasket maker just starts from here and goes around to the bolt. That's about it. Just like that. That's good enough for this cap. And then this one is the same. You just put it on the edge here. All right, so next what we're going to do is on this side, we're going to loosen all these bolts for adjusting the valves. That way we can, when we adjust the valves, they're loose and we can adjust it to the proper spec. Right now, they're just, some of them are too tight, some of them are too loose. It's best to loosen them all up. Some of these are way too tight. Yep, way too tight. We'll back all these out so that they're overly loose, and then we'll adjust them once we adjust our valves. Alright guys, so I was trying to install the new gasket from Engine Tech for the timing belt cover, and this thing is completely wrong. This is the original one. I didn't want to reuse the original one, but I think I have no choice. If you look at this, the specs are completely off. Look at this. If you match up just in the center there, it's a little bit too short. The arm's a little bit too long. And then this midsection, it's way longer than the original. So there's no way this is gonna fit. If it was a little bit smaller, you could probably stretch it, but this gasket is basically useless. That's from Engine Tech, so no good. Well, because I don't want to wait for another gasket and order it, I'm just going to be reusing this old rubber one. The rubber itself is still pretty okay. It's just a little dirty. It's got some crusty stuff on it, but I think we're still okay, just to seal off the area so that no dirt and dust get into the the engine anyways. So we'll reuse this gasket. As you can see, this one fits perfectly back on here. I mean, it's not the prettiest, but it's definitely better than this garbage. Like you could just see trying to put this thing on, it will not fit. Look at that. Will not fit. It's extending right beyond that. Disappointed. Alright guys, so now it's just time to torque these cams down, or the cam gear. So all you do is just hold the cam from this with an adjustable wrench and you just torque it like so. And then the same for the other side. Alright, now we're on to installing the timing belt. So we gotta make sure everything is still TDC. So this gear will match up with the water pump mark here, and there's a mark on the gear. Excellent. New tensioners on. Now we're gonna run this brand new belt. So what I've done is I took a couple just regular pins and I've set my cams here. So you could just, there's a piece here that you can put in for a pin that holds the cam in place. So it also matches up with the marking here. Might have to twist it a little bit because it wasn't the exact fit. It's supposed to be a 5mm punch that you're supposed to use, but should still be okay. I just have to use my ratchet and twist it a little bit as I get to it. There we go. All right, right now, as you can see, the timing belt is really loose. So to tension the timing belt after the installation, so right now it is facing up and these 2 points are matching. So the teeth, this is actually correct orientation. So after that, you want to make sure that the timing belt and everything is centered first. Then once you have everything centered, you would rotate the crank 3 teeth. So you can tell by the 3 teeth where this will get, basically these 2 markings will be off by 3 teeth offsetting each other. Let me show you guys. So right there, that's 1 teeth, 2 teeth, and the 3rd teeth is right there. About there, you see that's the tension that you need. Now we have to torque this down to 40 foot-pounds. Good. All right, now it's time to reinstall the driver's side post mount. Good. All right, now we're going to reinstall this cover here, and I've already cleaned it all up, washed it with some soap. All right, now we're going to put the crank pulley in. I have a crank pulley from a B20 because the B18 one was actually chipped a chunk off, if you guys remember. So this one should work fine. And I did match it. The B20 pulley is exactly the same as the B18 one. It's just a little bit bigger. So I'll probably have to run a B20 alternator belt. All right, so to torque it down, I'm going to be using this tool hooked onto a flex bar. There you go. All right, that's on. Now all that's left is to put back on the valve cover and I guess the valve cover hardware. All right guys, here's the valve cover. We're just going to install the PCV grommet here because the old one broke when I was removing it. Oh yeah, there you go, nice and new. And then we're going to put in the valve cover gasket. This is from the Engine Tech kit. So when installing, we do have to put some silicone on some certain areas. These are the areas that you got to put on. And those are the only areas. You don't slap silicone on the whole thing. Now we need some of these O-rings. I think this, yeah, these are the ones. There should be 4 of these. There you go. Now it's all ready to be put back onto the engine. All right, I did get a whole bunch of these acorn bolts from Honda so that I could replace all of them on the valve cover. However, I am going to run that plate on the top here. So I'm going to use 2 of the old acorns on here so that I don't end up using new ones. And then I'm going to put new ones all the way around. All right, it's time to reinstall the water neck. I applied some gasket maker on liquid gasket on the back of here, and then we're just going to bolt it in. It's supposed to be torqued down to 8 foot-pounds. All right, it's good. All right, next we're going to be reinstalling the intake manifold. I did remove this PGMFI because it's seen better days. It's kind of dented and scratched up, and now it kind of looks a little naked. I might just make my own badge later on and stick it on. For now, I'm just going to leave it off. I actually end up sanding this and polishing it a little bit to make it a little bit clean. But now it kind of looks like a generic intake manifold. But it is a B18A1 one. So we're going to take some of these off, replace some of the seals that are in the kit, and then we're going to put this back onto the engine. All right, we've got this nice new gasket. It's actually got 3 layers. So I think it's pretty good quality, even though it's got 2 of the paper layers. But a lot of the intake manifold gaskets I see is just the paper layer. But it's nice to see this one has like a 3-layer thing. So this should work pretty well. Yep, it all lines up. There you go. That's lined up. So it came with a whole bunch of different gaskets for the throttle body. So you just find the one that matches up. I think this is the one that matches up the best. All right, if you guys have been following this entire time of the build, you know that this had some gouges in it on the surface here. I guess somebody was prying on it and probably put some gouges into the throttle body. So what I've done is I just put some liquid gasket on there, and I took a X-Acto blade and just smoothed it out. So you can barely see it. It's like feathered in here, but there are some gouges. Now that it's a little bit more level, this way it should sit flush and we shouldn't be getting any more leaks. I did leave it for about 24 hours. So this reassembly is after the fact that I've already put that liquid gasket on. And now we'll put the fast idle throttle valve back, which is on the bottom here. All right, this one, because it's a B18A1, it's torqued down to 9 foot-pounds. Now, I'm not going to replace the O-rings or anything on these injectors because I've had issues with in the past where I replaced the O-ring in here and then it started leaking with these aftermarket O-rings. Best to just leave them in the stock O-rings. And you don't really need to replace these little spacers here as well, but they did come in the kit. But that's good enough right now, and then we could just pop this back on the fuel rail. All right, now time to put the distributor on. Here's the brand new alternator. We'll just bolt this up. I did buy a brand new OEM top bolt for this because it didn't come with the alternator or the bolt, this engine. All right, now we just need a belt. I'm thinking it's a CRV belt, but I'm not 100% sure. I might even have an old used belt somewhere that might work. See if any of my Y8 belts work. All right, guys, so I found this belt in my bin of belts, and it's a 4PK820. And when I checked the part number, it is for a CRV and for a Y8, and it is perfect fit for this alternator and crank pulley setup. So essentially, all I have to do is, in the future, order a CRV belt. So as you can see, I could completely tension this, and there's tension here, and then I'll just tighten everything down. There it is, guys. The engine is fully rebuilt and completely reassembled. All that's left is to put back on the transmission components, and then we're ready to actually swap this thing into the car. For now, I'm just going to set it aside and wrap it up until I'm ready to start dropping it in. Anyways, I hope this video helps you guys out. If you haven't already, please comment, like, and subscribe, and share my videos. As always, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.